Welcome to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. This is a podcast for faithful women who want healing in their relationships, guidance from God, and internal peace. Each week, you'll hear mental health concepts taught through a spiritual lens from me, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, to help you start thinking in a higher and holier way. Welcome. On this episode, we will be discussing combating seasonal depression. All right, we're wrapping up this month's topic of becoming mentally strong, and today we're tackling a subject that affects many people's mental strength as the seasons change: seasonal depression. Also sometimes known as seasonal affective disorder, or sometimes people refer to it as just SAD. So let's dive in and talk about what seasonal depression is, how you know you have it, and most importantly, what you can do to combat it. So maybe grab a warm drink and get cozy, and let's dive in. One of the reasons you might notice your mood changing as the seasons change is that days are getting shorter and temperatures are getting colder or lower. But for some, these changes go kind of beyond feeling a little bit down or tired. And this is where seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, comes into play. Seasonal depression is a type of depression that's linked to changes in seasons. So typically starting in the fall and continuing through the winter months. It's more than really just the quote unquote winter blues, though. It really is a legitimate mental health condition that can have a significant impact on your day-to-day. Now, the exact cause of seasonal depression isn't really fully understood, but it's believed to be related to the reduced levels of sunlight that start occurring because of the fall and winter. And this lack of sunlight can disrupt your body's internal clock, and that's known as your circadian rhythm. And that can lead to a drop in serotonin levels, which is just a neurotransmitter that affects your mood. Also, the change in seasons can disrupt the balance or the melatonin in your system. And that's a hormone that plays a role in your sleep patterns and your mood regulation. So if you're getting less sunlight, that affects your mood, and less melatonin, and that affects your sleep, you might start experiencing some symptoms of depression during the winter months. Although it isn't just the colder months that some people experience seasonal depression. Some people in really hot climates in the summer can experience these symptoms too. If it's too hot to go outside most of the summer, then you're missing out on that needed sunlight as well. The symptoms of seasonal depression are similar to those of regular depression, but tend to occur only around the same time each year. Now, I'm going to read you some of these symptoms, and as you start identifying with them, first of all, it doesn't mean that you're diagnosed, right? This is not therapy. You need to go to a therapist. You need to receive an official diagnosis, but this can give you an idea of what to discuss with a therapist or a medical provider if you feel that you can relate, okay? So some of the most common symptoms are feeling depressed most of the day or nearly every day, or losing interest in activities that you used to enjoy doing, lowered energy or easily fatigued, difficulty sleeping or oversleeping, like you can't fall asleep or you're waking up in the middle of the night, or changes in your appetite or weight, or maybe just craving a bunch of carbohydrates. You could be difficulty concentrating or focusing, feelings of hopelessness or worthlessness, and in some cases, thoughts of death or suicide if it gets pretty severe. If you notice a pattern of these symptoms occurring during specific seasons, year after year, it's possible that you might be dealing with seasonal depression. So what can you do if you think you might be suffering from seasonal depression? The good news is that there are several strategies you can implement to help manage and even alleviate the symptoms. And I'm going to talk about 3 of those ideas today, but there's many more that can help for sure than what I'm going to highlight today. The first strategy is using light therapy. One of the most effective treatments for seasonal depression is light therapy. This is literally sitting near a light box that emits bright light that mimics natural sunlight. The idea is to increase the light for the lack of sunlight during the darker months. A lot of studies show that light therapy can significantly improve your mood and energy levels in those that have seasonal depression. For the light box to make a difference, though, you usually need to use it for about 20 to 30 minutes every morning. But again, it's important to consult with your own healthcare provider to determine the best approach for you. Another thought that comes to mind when I think about light therapy is the light of Christ. His light can bring to our lives very powerful effects. Consider his light when you're considering outside light sources as well. All right, I wanted to interrupt this episode to tell you about the first annual LDS Mental Health Skills Conference. It's coming up on November 22nd and 23rd. And at this 2-day virtual Zoom conference, you're going to learn some strategies and skills for managing holiday stress, setting and keeping boundaries, self-compassion, stillness, to-do list overwhelm, sustainable self-care, and processing negative emotions. This is going to be a jam-packed conference with mental health skills taught through a spiritual lens to fortify your mental health for future challenges. Also, to help you apply these skills after the conference, I'm also including 1-year access to the recordings of all the sessions and a PDF workbook that includes a year-long plan for the application of the skills you learned. To register for this conference, click the link in the show notes and be sure to use the discount code MHSC25 for 25% off your ticket. All right, back to the episode. So a second strategy to combat seasonal depression is to stay active. Exercise is a powerful tool for combating depression, including seasonal depression. Physical activity really boosts that serotonin levels that might be decreasing in the winter seasons. It also improves your sleep and helps you feel more energized. Even though it might be tempting to stay indoors and avoid the cold, try to incorporate some regular exercise into your routine. This could be anything from jumping on a treadmill for a slow 20-minute walk, stretching your body, or even dancing around your living room. The key is finding something you enjoy and making it a regular part of your day. It doesn't have to be vigorous, just get moving. Wintertime seems to be a little bit harder to get moving since we're cooped up in the house, right? But don't overcomplicate it. Come up with something small. Don't come up with a big giant routine because remember, it's through small and simple things that great things are brought to pass. So if you put in the effort, God will magnify that and help you feel the increased strength mentally. Okay, now for the last strategy to combat seasonal depression, and which is to prioritize social connections. During the winter months, it's really easy to feel isolated, especially if you're spending more time indoors. However, staying connected with friends and loved ones can be incredibly beneficial to your mental health. Making an effort to maintain social interactions, whether that's through planning a lunch with someone, phone calls, or even FaceTiming. Surrounding yourself with human interaction rather than just endless scrolling on other people's lives can help lift your spirits and remind you that you're not alone. One thing I try to do all winter long is plan a walk with a friend once a week in the morning. I get out of the house, I get some sunshine, I move my body, and get some social interaction, and it makes a huge difference. Also remember that God has instructed us in many ways to be social. Ministering, spending time with family, and attending church, where we have great discussions, are all social interactions. We're encouraged in many ways to interact with others. Now, you don't have to be the center of attention or be in a big crowd for this benefit to work. In fact, I like smaller groups and thrive better on one-on-one interactions. So if you're feeling kind of socially awkward or socially anxious, that's okay. It can look different for you. All right, there's your 3 ways to combat seasonal depression. Increase your light, stay active, and prioritize social interactions. And if you're wondering about more strategies to implement and combat seasonal depression, I'm actually holding the first annual LDS Mental Health Skills Conference on November 22nd and 23rd. And I'm going to teach you some more skills during that conference. At the 2-day virtual Zoom conference, you're going to learn strategies for managing holiday stress, setting and keeping boundaries, self-compassion, stillness, to-do list overwhelm, sustainable self-care, and processing negative emotions. This is going to be jam-packed conference with mental health skills taught through a spiritual lens to fortify your mental health for future challenges. Also, to help you apply these skills after the conference, I'm also including a 1-year access to the recordings of all the sessions and a PDF workbook that includes a year-long plan for application of the skills that you learned during the conference. To register for this conference, click the link in the show notes and be sure to use the discount code MHSC25 for 25% off your ticket. All right, I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. I hope you were able to find ways of healing, guidance, and peace. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend who would love to start thinking in a higher and holier way as well. Or hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any episodes. Also, check out the links in my show notes for other episodes you might like and links for other mental health resources on my website.